Thanks for meeting up with us again. Um, I guess a couple of quick things that I'd like to kind of discuss right away. More about the MLS season, right? So you guys got to go back doing individual stuff last week, I believe. And can you maybe kind of just give us a little bit of update, maybe on how that looks, and then kind of what's going on here in the future for MLS?
Yeah, it's been a crazy time. So each market is different. So the situation in San Jose is still that we can't train in small groups, or we can't use the team facilities. There's no option for us to train. But I believe Minnesota is able to train. I believe Atlanta, Houston, Seattle, all of those guys have gotten the green light. But still in San Jose, just based on our county's rules and regulations, they're not letting us train. So I've just been training on my own. I've been doing the same skills that I put up on that YouTube channel. It's all the same stuff that keeps me sharp and ready to go. The goal for MLS is to hopefully start in Orlando in June. There's been conversations with the league and the players union and the owners. There's all kinds of different ideas floating around. So hopefully that gets ironed out and we could get it all figured out sooner rather than later.
So obviously with California, right? I know they have some different rules that's going on in every state. Is has been different, which we've kind of encountered recently. So when they do get to go back out, is it in California still might have those restrictions? Would that mean that you would be a team that would just be traveling and would not have home matches in California?
Yeah, there's still so much to be determined, and the league and the players union are in constant communication about different solutions for these problems. It sounds like a couple other leagues are starting to take steps forward, but we're still waiting for the green light. Orlando still isn't certain. It's still being talked about, and so we just basically have to be on our toes. But it's crazy. Because I could potentially be moving to Florida within the next couple of weeks, and I still don't even know. So I'm just focusing on what I can control, and I think that's all you can do in a difficult time like this. I'm sure every family, every person has their own uncertainty that they're dealing with, but for me, the best way to deal with it is just to focus on getting a little bit better every day, do something productive every single day, and go from there. Because I think there's no use in trying to think too much about things that still aren't figured out yet.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, right? Because it's there's still some uncertainties at what's going through, and every league's different, right? The Bundesliga started last week. I just saw English Premier League is trying to start up in June. So yeah, I think those are things and probably look at. And I know Minnesota United has been doing individual training at their complex, but it's still been individual training. So talking about the YouTube channel, and I know we have that on our site. We actually did a couple of skills challenges. You were very gracious to let us use some of your skills, which we'll talk about a little bit later here. But maybe just kind of, if people weren't on before, kind of how this came about. I mean, was the YouTube channel that you were doing something before the virus, or is this something that you kind of started? So kind of maybe, reiterate a little bit on, how it started, and obviously it's grown, it's exploded. So different things that it's done well for you and for other people.
Yeah, so basically at the start of quarantine, once the NBA got postponed, I started to see the writing on the wall, and I realized how serious the situation was going to be. And so I got on the phone with my dad, and the first thing that we talked about is, okay, uh, we should create some type of skills challenge, because there's going to be all kinds of young soccer players across the United States that are going to be bored. They're not going to be able to train with their team. So they're going to have to learn how to train on their own. They're going to have to learn how to have a relationship with the ball when it's just them and the ball, and without their teams, without their coaches. So we wanted to try to create basically a way for kids to learn how to train on their own. And that started with the skills challenges. It started off on Twitter, actually. I posted some of the skills that I used to do in my garage, and then that got a couple hundred thousand views within a day. And so immediately I realized how much of a need there was for this. And so we did all kinds of skills challenges. It went on for a couple days. and we got over 100 clips from different kids across the country, and we put it together in a really cool video, which was awesome. But that just lasted for about a week, and then we were like, okay, this is somewhat of a fad. Just doing skills challenges isn't enough. We want to create a full curriculum. And so that's where me and my dad landed on the idea, okay, now we got to create a full YouTube channel. And we're going to upload all of the different skills that I did that helped me get to where I am today. Because I'm not the biggest player, the strongest player, the fastest player. And so I wanted to show kids what I did that got me to where I am today, that has allowed me to play in Major League Soccer for 7 years. So it's been great, and now it's gotten almost 200,000 views within the first 2 months, and there's views from players from all across the United States. So I think it's really giving kids an idea on how they could train on their own. And my favorite thing that I hope some of you guys have checked out, I'm just going to show this real quick. This is what I call the series. It was one of the most important exercises that I've ever learned, and this is literally what I was just doing 2 days ago. It's how I keep my dribbling technique sharp, and how I also improve my fitness, and it's helped me out a ton. I learned that from Jurgen Klopp's assistant at Liverpool. This was back in the day when he was still at PSV Eindhoven. But there's some really good stuff on there, and it's to this day the same stuff I do. So I just basically created it to try to give kids an idea on how they can continue getting better on their own.
Yeah, no, I think, I know you've done some different things. You send them off to us, some that have been more basic for kids that are maybe just starting, to help them out. And then I know you had that 30-minute one that's a little more challenging. And I know we've sent them off to some of our players to challenge them a little bit, even our younger kids. Just so you know, we've kind of taken your cycle, your series, and we've been trying to going through them a little bit to give some different things with them. I know, again, like I said, we're kind of in that phase. We've been in that phase of doing webinars and doing training. We get to have the opportunity starting June 1st to go outside in small groups. And so it's one of those things that we're continuing to try to use and give them those opportunities to be comfortable with the ball, right? And I think that's part of maybe kids in this country, recognizing that that's something that we're looking to do. I guess around your area with some of the youth kids, I don't know where they are with it. I thought California was shut down for the most part, but I mean, have you seen other kids? Have you had talked to other people about this is what we're looking to do? And again, like I said, it's a lot of individual stuff. So has you seen some different things in your area that, kids are maybe trying to do also?
Yeah, so it was pretty amazing, actually. I was in Sacramento for a long time, and my dad was the cameraman for a lot of those videos. So I stayed up there for about a month, but then my first time coming back to San Jose was just a couple days ago. And the first time I came back, I went out to the field and I laid down 10 cones to do the 10-cone dribbling drill that I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen on the channel. And it was the coolest thing. So I went to a park, and it was just an open park. And then I looked up, and then there was a 10-year-old boy that had 10 cones laid down as well. And he was doing the roll and push exercise through the cones. And then I was doing the roll and push exercise. And it was the funniest thing. And then after that, his dad came up to me and said, "Hey, thank you so much for giving us ideas on how to train." We've actually been using the YouTube channel, and I've been trying to encourage him to continue getting better. So that was a crazy situation for me, because it took me back to when I was just a kid on the field getting better, and I think it shows that some people are really embracing it. And that's what I want kids to focus on, because there's no doubt that this is a difficult time in quarantine, where you're away from your teams, you're away from your friends, you're away from your coaches. But if kids could focus on the fact that this is actually a huge opportunity to learn how to train on your own, they can actually be taking a huge step forward in their careers, because learning how to train on your own is actually one of the most important things you could ever do as a soccer player. I guarantee you every single person in our Earthquakes locker room learned how to train on their own at one point. So if kids use this quarantine period as a time to figure out how to train on their own, Then once they get back with their teams, they'll be able to improve with their teams, and they'll also be able to improve on their own. And that's the best type of combination where you can really take your game to the next level.
You know, that I think that's a huge thing that we've been trying to stress, right? Because players are by themselves, and to being comfortable with the ball at their feet, uh, and getting those things. So I think that's outstanding. I guess you as a youth player, and we didn't talk too much about this the last time, so I kind of wanted to kind of bring it back up. You as a player, when you were a youth player, I know a lot of these things were the same things you did before. When you were, what it was, I think, what the things that you did then have kind of wanted you to continue to play soccer? I mean, what was your enjoyment? What were different things you do? Was it the skills? Was it games? Was it friends? Was it all of it? And so, as a youth player, what made you want to continue to play and get to that next level and to the highest level?
Yeah, it's funny for me being here now because I think back to when I was 7 or 8 years old, and I was going through some of the cover skill exercises that my dad would always push me to go through, and I hated them. I couldn't stand it. I only wanted to play games. I only wanted to shoot on goal, and I even wanted to play goalie. But the last thing I ever wanted to do was do the skill work. And it wasn't until I was around 11 or 12 years old where I came across Ronaldinho with his Jogo Bonito videos and that Brazilian flair, where they just had fun with it. Soccer was just a part of their life, to where instead of thinking, oh, I have to go out to train, they're thinking like, oh, I get to go spend time with my friends. I get to play soccer. They're constantly trying to figure out ways to play because to them it's fun, and it's part of what brings them joy in life. And that was just radiated from Ronaldinho's personality in the different videos that I watched. And so that really caused me to fall in love with it. So that was where it all started, was basically YouTube. And whenever I saw him doing different skills, I'm like, wait, I can do that. I knew it was going to take a long time, but I wanted to start. And I wanted to start practicing because I wanted to one day be able to juggle just like him. And so that's where it all started, just watching Ronaldinho on YouTube. And that's why it's now come full circle, and why I've been really motivated to create the YouTube channel, is because my advice to kids is to get inspired by somebody. Whether it's me and my YouTube channel, or whether it's Miguel Ibarra, or whether it's Mason Toya, whoever it is, I encourage kids to get inspired, and that comes from all different types of channels, whether it's from watching the World Cup, watching Premier League, whatever it is. But I just want to encourage kids to be inspired, because once you fall in love with it, that's where you're going to be willing to put in the work that it takes to get to that next level. And so for me, it started with Ronaldinho.
And you mentioned, obviously a lot of different professional players that kind of uh, drove you and wanted you to have more excitement into the game. And so I'm assuming that was, like, as you said, something that as you continue to move forward, it wasn't work, I mean, you had to work hard, but it was more enjoyment. I would assume that that's kind of what goes on. And I think the one thing for ourselves too is, like, using you as an example, and then trying to get some of our players to look at different players maybe from the past, and not just one or two, not just Ronaldo or Messi, but looking at other guys that they have seen, or positional plays too, right? So finding those aspects, because like I said, you were a forward before when you were younger, and so obviously finding those guys that had a little bit more flair, I'm assuming, was something that was important to you and looking at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so again, I want to just talk a little bit more about the soccer, the landscape of how everything looks a little bit. Now that it's changed, and I know you've been doing a lot of skills, and doing your sessions that way, and you talked a little bit about, there is no games, there's no other things to go through, um, and then you as a professional, what other things do you do to kind of keep yourself, motivated for soccer and to get ready, and what are those things? Because again, there's no competition yet. I mean, do you put competition in the activities that you do? Is there different things you do to kind of get that feel, right? Because you're a professional player, and I think any soccer player, any athlete, wants competition, right? That it's something that they strive for. So what have you done to kind of get some of your competition into your game as of now?
Yeah, so for me, our team, whenever we start preseason back up, we always do all kinds of fitness tests. You know, there's the push-up test, there's the pull-up test, there's the bench press test, and there's the yo-yo test, which is basically you have to run till you can't run anymore. And I'm not sure if I've shown this before or not, but I'm just going to show it one more time through here. This was the footage from this year's session. And so basically you just run in a line, and whoever's the last one that's able to make it there and back gets to stand up. And at the end of this video here, it shows like the rest of my teammates cheering me on because I ended up being the last person to be able to keep running. And so there's no doubt that during this time, it's difficult to be motivated because there's no game on the weekend that you can get up for. But for me, I always envision like a light at the end of the tunnel. And for me, that light at the end of the tunnel is those moments with my teammates. And who knows, maybe someone beats me when we join in over the summer, but I'm going to fight to win it again. And so I just envision like that feeling of you can see in that video, once I actually see that no one else is running, I start smiling because it made all of those runs that I did in the off season worth it. And so even though it's difficult right now to be motivated, I just constantly think about the day where I know I'm returning because it's coming. And everyone here that's watching this Zoom session is going to return to the field, and they're going to be back with their friends, and they're going to be back playing games. So I think it's so important to focus on that light at the end of the tunnel and to envision you scoring a goal, envision you winning a tournament, because that's what keeps you motivated. If you instead get into this negative mindset of, oh, I don't get to be with my team, I don't get to be with my friends, then when that day does come and you're going to be back with everybody, you're not going to be nearly as prepared as you could have been. So for me, I always just envision those moments and I work hard to make sure I can recreate them.
My first question, I didn't want to interrupt you, is how many runs did you actually get out there?
That's a good question. So the yo-yo test is a little bit different. I couldn't tell you exactly how many I did, but the ending score was 22.4. And so it's a lot of sprints. It's a lot of sprints, that's for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. So a lot of the training you've been doing, obviously you and the ball, because that's what you have. Have you looked to do different things too, right? Because it's great to have the ball, but have you been working on different aspects, taking balls out of the air, heading? Have you been shooting? Have you been doing some of those things on your own? Are those other things that you've been looking to do? I know it's hard because same thing with our players. Everybody's been very individual, or they've been at home. Our return to, has been more open now. People can go certain places. But have you been doing some of that stuff? I know it hasn't been posted, but are you still doing some of that work also?
Yeah, so normally in the off season, I incorporate training with a partner into my regular schedule of just training on my own, because I really enjoy working on different passing drills and first touch drills and playing soccer, tennis, and doing partner juggling, because to me, that's where I have a lot of fun. I mean, it's difficult for me to be motivated and continue going to the field by myself over and over and over again. So that's what's been a new challenge about this quarantine, is that I can't do that partner work. So really, it's been, the majority of it has been dribbling, because that's all I can do by myself. But I do a lot of juggling as well, kicking the ball really high and then trying to control it. I think that's really important that kids can do on their own. But for sure, I would encourage kids, like as soon as they're able to bring a couple friends out there and have fun with it, because I think that's definitely a way to stay motivated. I'm actually planning on making a new video with my brother or somebody else where I'll be doing the same like first touch passing drills that I always do. There's some really good ones that I want to share. So that'll be released at some point.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I love the videos. I think a lot of our coaches have been using them and just trying to get some different things with it. Obviously, the skills challenges that we've done, and then you have a couple ones that are pretty cool. I think we have the spin back wheel one, which I might show here a little bit. And then we have another one coming out, the Wing Grove, which is not easy. It's pretty impressive. Which, but I love the ideas to get the players to be comfortable with the ball with their foot first, and then as we go. I guess the thing with the juggling is you brought that up. Is that something that you kind of do consistently? You consistently juggle? Is that something you still do, and then you kind of change things up?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's actually what I do before every game. And it started with the videos that I was talking about with Ronaldinho. There's one with Ronaldinho and there's one with Maradona, where before every game, they'd take the ball and they just kick it really high in the air. And then they juggle it. And then they kick it really high in the air and then they juggle it. And it's almost like a meditation practice. And that's what I do. I've been doing it for 7 years. Before every single MLS game, when we go warm up and before we start running with the team, I go on my own and I kick that ball in the air because it reminds me of why I started and where I came from. So I definitely still do that. Let's see if I could, yeah, check this out. This is the video of me. This is when I was a rookie. So this is when I was really young. But it's just like, oh, that was the spin back heel one. But check this out. This is like some fan just filmed this just on YouTube. But this is where I think I start kicking it up here in a second. Oh, on the back. Let's see if I drop it. But yeah, basically it's just a way for me to relax. There we go. There it goes. Kick it up in the air and then juggle it again. And then you kick it up in the air and then you juggle it again. And it's just a way for me. I did it when I was 18 years old. I still do it to this day. And people sometimes tell me, like, oh, you're just showing off in front of the fans watching. But it's not it at all. Like, I just did it at the park 2 days ago. It's something I've been doing since I was a kid, and it just takes me back to being a kid. Because for me, juggling is relaxing, and it's fun. And it's a way for me to relax and still get better. To me, I think that's the best combination.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I was going to ask you too about. I know the last time we talked, a lot of people asked about pregame stuff. What did you do? Food, that kind of stuff. So maybe if you could reiterate, maybe what kind of food you might eat or do you eat before? And then you talked about the meditation part. What other aspects were for you to get ready as a player? Is it an MLS player or even when you were in college or as a youth player?
Yeah, so I keep it pretty simple. I eat a lot of pasta, broccoli, and chicken before games. I think that's a classic pregame meal. I don't try to overcomplicate anything. I don't have any type of fancy diet. I just really try to eliminate sweets as much as I can, splurge once in a while, but then also really focus on getting that protein so I could continue to maintain the muscle that I do have. So that's pretty much what takes care of the meal topic. Pretty simple for me. But then when it comes to meditation and how I prepare mentally for games, it's funny. Someone asked me that question actually a couple days ago, and to me, I think sometimes kids overthink it, or pros overthink it as well. To me, I think the game is the reward, and I always remind myself of the amount of work that I put in before the game. So I'm comfortable and I'm confident because I knew I worked as hard as I could and I'm as prepared as I could be to take on this challenge. And when I step on that field with the Earthquakes, there's been games where I stepped onto it and we lost 5-0 to LAFC. Or there's been a game where we stepped onto it in front of 50,000 people and then we beat LA Galaxy and Zlatan Ibrahimovic 3-0 and I scored a goal. So it's like, to me, the game is the reward. And regardless of what happens, I'm going to learn from it. So if we lose 5-0 at home in front of 18,000 San Jose fans, it's embarrassing, but I know that there's growth. And if we win 3-0 in front of 50,000 home fans, it's exciting, and I know there's growth. But to me, my mindset is, okay, I worked so hard to be here. Now I'm going to try to enjoy it. I know I'm going to learn. So bring on the failure, bring on the success. Whatever comes my way, I'm going to grow from it. And so I don't think too much about, oh, we have have to win, we have to win, or, oh, we won, now I'm so excited, or, oh, now we lost, now it's the end of the world. I try to stay level-headed and continue to focus on that process, because sticking to that process is what allows you to get to that next level. Otherwise, you get way too caught up in the successes and you get way too caught up in the failures, because it's a marathon.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, for our players and people. I think um, they get nervous, right? And then they don't perform maybe to the way what they do, and for several reasons. And uh, if you're prepared, right, and you feel comfortable with what's going on, then that kind of nervousness might go away a little bit.
Yeah.
Going back to yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I think that's a great point. And what I want to encourage kids to do is to not fear failure. I think failure is inevitable. Uh, I was 18 years old, Big Ten freshman of the year, walking into the Quakes locker room thinking I was going to start scoring goals like crazy. It took me 2.5 years to score a goal in MLS, and that was difficult. That was my first real taste of hitting that wall where I felt like I was failing. But it ended up being the best thing for me. And I wouldn't have wanted my career to go any other way. Like, I'm very happy with the things that progressed because of the lessons I've learned on the way. So I think sometimes in this like social media era, there's just so much highlights and everyone's watching that one person that's just doing amazing. And it's great. It's great for that one person, and it's really exciting for all the attention that's on the successes. But I want to remind kids that every person you see in those highlights, they've experienced a ton of failure. And anytime they experience that failure, they just respond to it in a positive way where they don't let it stop them from continuing with their process. So that's what I just want to encourage kids to do, because sometimes people look at my career and think, oh, you're 24 years old, you played over 100 games, like things have been smooth sailing, but it's not true.
I think it's a great point of right, the failure success in games. I know a lot of our coaches, we talk about there's so many ebbs and flows of a game, right? You're not going to be perfect in a match, and then so taking those training sessions to maybe take the risks, right? Take that skill challenge, take that challenge something in those situations when you can. So I think it's a great point. Going back to MLS, so I guess my questions are, since you are not part of your group, and the last time there wasn't much communication with the coaching staff or anything else. Have you had any, webinars or, hey, this is what we're going to look to do this year when we get started? Here's some things to do. Or are you still completely like on your own without speaking to them?
We've had a handful of webinars, but it hasn't had anything to do with tactics. And I think it's been interesting, but it's been a challenge. Our coach's philosophy is basically that, right now we're in a global crisis, and right now the players need to be focused on preparing themselves, but we're going to trust them to do that. And the other focus should be on that they need to take care of their families and the loved ones that are closest to them. So I think right now they're treating it more as a time for guys to refocus on making sure everyone's taken care of. And at the same time, they got to be preparing to the best of their abilities. They have us on a workout plan, and they got to make sure, and we as professional athletes have to make sure that we're going to be prepared walking into that locker room whenever that day does come. And I actually like that about our coaching staff, because these guys are all in. As soon as things start up, I've never seen a coach push a team so hard. We go to Cancun for 2.5 weeks, and it's double days almost every single day. And it's not double days where you're just going through the motions in the afternoon. It's intense double days where guys are really reaching breaking points. But this guy creates an environment of just enjoyment, and he's taught the group how to actually like embrace and enjoy that grind. And I actually love that about him. So right now he's given us space because we need it. But he knows that as soon as things start up, like you just got a taste of it in our last webinar when he brought up Orlando for the first time. And he's like, okay, so just to be clear, I'm very happy that you guys have taken care of yourselves and everyone's okay when it comes to their health and the way everyone's dealt with this virus. But when we go to Orlando, I want you guys bought in. And this is in Spanish, but he's basically saying, like, I want players that are there to win. If you guys don't want to go, don't go. I'll take the U17 team. I want guys that are bought in. And to me, that was hilarious because he just starts tapping into guys' psyche because he sees something might be coming. And so he just flips this switch where even though it's through a translator, through a Zoom call, he just has an ability to just connect with you. And he's just like, we're there to win. Just to be clear, like, make sure you guys are ready because you know he's going to turn it on. And so I think he has kept us connected in that way. But when it comes to actual like Zoom trainings or anything like that, he puts enough faith in us to do the work on our own.
That's great. I mean, I think and he kind of expects you to be prepared, right? Because you are
Yeah.
professional athletes. You know, and then so I'm assuming they haven't spoken about, you know, positioning or any of that kind of stuff. I mean, that's going to kind of, when you go to Orlando or when that happens, is there going to be like a 2-week or 3-week prep time before you start a match? I'm sure they haven't really said much to you about it, but is there something that you have heard or, you know, that they've
Yeah.
mentioned to you?
Yeah, I've heard about a 3-week preseason period, but it's all subject to change. You know, the league is still ironing out all these different details. But at the end of the day, you know, the players haven't been able to play in front of their fans, you know. So I think it's up to us to be very flexible in order to try to help the league bring in some type of revenue and provide some type of on-field product. And so my mindset going into it is like, look, I haven't been able to play like I wish I would have been able to, but now I have to be flexible in order to bring joy to some of the Quakes fans or bring joy to the different fans of the league. You know, we got to provide an on-field product, so we got to be flexible. And I'm sure it's not going to look exactly like it's looked in the past, but I think the league is doing a great job of coming up with creative solutions to a very complicated issue.
And that was my other thing with San Jose. I mean, have they, you know, obviously the season was supposed to start, you know, a month ago or actually longer than that, right? Almost 2 months ago. And so have they been doing some things in their local market to kind of communicate to, hey, we still have, we're hoping to have our season come out, you know, and then also if they have you been doing some of this stuff, since I think you are somebody that has kind of like shown, you know, the love of the game of soccer, and to be, and especially being an American too, I think is great for soccer in this country. So have San Jose kind of reached out to you, or has San Jose kind of pushed stuff through to say, hey, let's continue to be excited that this might be coming here in the next couple of weeks? Because I'm assuming when it comes, it's going to come quickly, right? Maybe a week or two and they get going.
Yeah, so I think San Jose has done their best to try to keep fans engaged by playing replays of MLS Classic games and by just showing different highlights of the team last year and this year as well. So they're trying to keep fans engaged that way. They haven't released anything specific about what's to come because the reality is that we don't know. And so they don't want to create an excitement around something that hasn't been confirmed yet. But I think, like you said, once it is confirmed, it's going to happen quickly. That's well said. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. So for me, though, I haven't done a ton through the earthquakes. I've offered, you know, my services, and I was hoping to do some volunteer sessions with the Quakes Academy or different youth clubs that they might have connections to. But I think they've been very busy dealing with their own issues. So I've actually just done it on my own, and this has all been completely on my own. I'm grateful for the opportunities you've helped me out with. I think it was really fun to be able to coach, you know, 100 kids in Minnesota on that Facebook Live. Hopefully some of you guys here on this chat, we're training in that session. And it's been really cool for me to actually personally reach out to all these different clubs across the country. You know, I've spoke with and trained clubs in Iowa, Minnesota, Indiana, California, and that's just off the top of my head. So it's pretty cool, and it's been a unique opportunity. And the new record now is just a couple of days ago. I actually ran a session with 250 kids in the Bay Area, which is incredible. And I never would have imagined at the beginning of this quarantine period that I'd be able to sit where I'm sitting right now and then coach 250 kids at once. So it's really opened my eyes to the opportunity that exists with technology. And so I'm going to try to utilize that as much as I can, even when life gets back to normal, because it is something that I want to communicate. And I just love soccer, and it's basically raised me. Like there's a Ronaldinho quote that says, "I was born, um, I learned all about life with the ball at my feet," and that's exactly how I've lived my life. You know, I signed with the Quakes when I was 18, so my whole formative years were with a soccer ball at my feet, and it's taught me everything I need to know about being a professional and about being a human being. So I want to try to communicate that love as much as I can. And this unique period has really opened my eyes to the possibilities that exist with Zoom and um, Google Hangouts and whatever else. So I'm really grateful for that, and I'm looking forward to hopefully continuing sharing this message over the next couple of years in my career.
I think we're gonna have to maybe talk. I mean, see if we can break that 250 mark at some point here in the next couple of weeks. So we've been having pretty good numbers. So I guarantee
Yeah,
you, I can
absolutely.
get Tommy Thompson on. I can get some more people out there. So, a couple questions came in from some people. How many hours a day do you do soccer, fitness wise, whatever, you know, especially in the last 6-7 weeks?
Right. So when I was a kid, I trained a lot more because my body allowed it. I would join in with my brother's team. So a couple times a week, I'd be doing back-to-back sessions for 3 hours in total. So hour and a half session, then an hour and a half session. So I really trained a lot as a kid, and it wasn't because anyone was forcing me to do it. It was because I just loved doing it, and I wanted to train, and I wanted to get better. But now I really just try to focus on training consistently, um, 6 days a week, but maybe just an hour, hour and a half a day. You know, and that might be me working out in the gym that I made in my garage and doing the workout program that I got, and then going out to the field and then doing the 10 cone dribbling drill for 45 minutes. You know, that's an hour and a half right there, double day. I try to keep it simple, and I try to make sure that I'm just improving every single day. Another thing that I do a lot, don't tell my teammates, but I do 2 miles. That's another thing that I add into the workout program. It's very competitive because I want to win that fitness test. I'm serious about that. I've won it 2 years in a row, and I know guys are coming for me for that third year. But I run 2 miles. Like just last night, I was doing webinars all day, but then I decided, you know, at 10 p.m. to run to the track because I didn't feel good about communicating all this inspiration and then not actually doing something on my own that day. So I went, ran a 2 mile. And to give you guys a benchmark, like yesterday I ran it in 11 minutes and like 35, 36 seconds. So it's around, you know, 5 minute, 45 pace or something. I don't know, check my math on that. But those are some of the things that I've been doing.
That's great. I think, do you get an award for winning that prize or no?
No, it's funny because you do it and then you don't talk about it. You know, it's a message that is just sent, and you don't have to remind everybody. You don't have to brag about it, nothing like that. But you just do it, and everyone knows what happened, and everybody remembers what happened too. So it's something that I've talked a lot on these webinars about, but in the locker room, I don't say it at all.
Okay. There's a couple cool questions here that are a little bit different. What's your favorite juggling trick that you've done?
Favorite juggling trick? I'll pull it up right now. I like this one a lot. It took me a while to learn it, but it's called the Tuzani. It's like one and a half around the world, basically. If you guys are ever trying to learn, the trick is to time your jump at the right time. So you do it around the world, and then you put that other foot all the way over the ball, and then you flick it up just like that. That's
Wow.
probably one of my favorites.
That's impressive. I saw that when you sent me that one before. I had to look at it a bunch of times. I'm glad you slowed it down for me. I was like, oh, okay. A couple of them had what was the most difficult position that you had to learn on the field?
Yeah, that's a good one. Like I said, I played forward my whole life, so having to learn how to play winger, attacking mid, holding mid, and now outside back, all at the Major League Soccer level has been intense. You know, sometimes I feel like I'm drinking from a fire hose. And I think learning how to play holding mid was one of the most difficult transitions because I had so much defensive responsibility as well as responsibility in building attacks as well. And so I think having to step on the field and think on both sides of the ball was interesting. And there's a ton of communication that you have to be able to um, communicate with. You know, there's all kinds of things you got to talk to your teammates about. And so I think, you know, having to learn how to do that at just 20 years old in MLS was tricky, but it was fun. And now I have experience there, and I'm ready to play there if a coach ever thinks I need to.
So I have two more questions, and we'll let you go. So if you didn't play soccer, what else would you be doing if you weren't playing pro soccer?
I was a big dancer in high school, so I really liked dance. I think at one point I liked dancing more than soccer, actually. I'd literally go to practice, and as soon as I got back from practice, I'd go in my garage, I'd turn on our boombox, and then I would just like dance. And my parents thought I was crazy. My siblings thought I was crazy, but I just loved it. It's just one of those things that has stuck with me. So I'd probably be doing something with that.
What kind of dance would that be?
Like hip hop. There's some
Okay.
there's some videos on the YouTube channel way deep down there if you want to check them out. The first videos on the channel is so funny. Just middle school was probably my heyday.
So what another person had, what was your favorite uniform? I kind of like that question. Yeah.
Yeah, favorite uniform.
Yeah.
Let's see if I got a picture. There's one of our home jerseys. I think it was 2 years ago. I should be able to pull up a picture real quick here. They just had these black stripes across it. Yeah, right here. I really like this. Let's see the black and blue stripes underneath that Sutter
Yeah.
Health.
Yep.
I think that logo is pretty sweet.
That is cool. Someone asked too, how was it playing with the Harlem Globetrotters? I didn't realize you play with the Harlem Globetrotters. That's why I asked that question. Somebody else brought it up though. So
Yeah, playing with the Globetrotters was awesome. I love those guys. They've actually taught me a ton about how to make sports fun. You know, I think sometimes it's a little bit easier for them because it's a little bit more scripted than professional sports. But they do a great job of engaging fans and engaging kids. And I've tried to apply that to the soccer world as well. If you haven't seen it, this is actually one of my favorite Globetrotters here. Watch what he's even able to do some of the soccer tricks. Check this out. He stalls it on his head, and then he's able to put it on his neck, and he passes it over, juggling the soccer ball. So I think it's really cool for kids to see just like the combination of the sports, you know, where we're actually just having a good time together. You know, it's with the basketball, but we're all we're doing soccer tricks. I think it's just fun to combine sports like that. And they've been really welcoming to allowing me to be a part of their organization.
So Dan asked, what's the rap song you sing when you walk onto the field?
That's a good one. That's a good one. Let's see. I got to think about that one. So Will Smith's kid, Jaden Smith, he has a really good song out called Icon. And the Earthquakes always play it because there's a Spanish version of it with Nicky Jam. And so it's like a bilingual song. And it is so cool. And so that's basically every time I remember like looking around the stadium like all last year, every home game, just in case something would ever happen to where we weren't able to play again. And I'm so glad I did because I have such a vivid image of just doing a full circle around the stadium and just taking it all in. So Icon by Jaden Smith is the song that I like the most probably before games.
Cool. Very cool. Well, yeah, I went a little longer than I was hoping for when I told you to, but obviously when questions come in, you know, so they're kind of interesting to hear the answers. Tommy, we appreciate all the time again. Like I said, I think we will we can talk a little bit and see where you're at with the schedule here in the next couple weeks, and maybe we can do a webinar. Like I said, we've been doing quite a few of them. Maybe we can get you on and get that number above 250.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'm all for it. I think it'd be even cooler to break that number with some players out in Minnesota. So yeah, just let me know what works for your schedule. And what's amazing about Zoom is even if I did move to Florida, all I need is my phone and this computer to do it with you guys. So I think no matter what, it'd work out. But
Okay.
yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. And like I said, I really appreciate you opening up your club to me and allowing me to meet everybody and talk to everyone. It's been really fun.
Yeah, no, again, we appreciate it. And yeah, we can talk more a little bit. I'll find that webinar where I know I can get some people on it, and then it's all yours. Then we'll do the Zoom for sure, and
Cool.
that'd be great. So yeah, have a great holiday weekend, and thanks again.
All right. That sounds
All
good.
right,
Let's
see ya.
50. I saw that bill. That sounds good. All right. See you guys.
All right, see you, Tommy. Thanks, everybody.